Mm.
When Black Men Talk, along with the DoD Network, it's Remarkable, Renee Ambush, and Mark Elliott. How are you, Remarkable?
Just that remarkable.
There it is. There it is. You better stay that way too. You gotta stay it. You gotta
Yeah.
stay it. No topic left behind is what we're doing. We've been doing this now for a little over a month, kind of basically,
Yes.
yeah, taking some topics and going behind them. And I always say this, this is your baby. This
Yes.
is this is your baby that you basically brought, and you had it all wrapped up nice and tight. The,
Hmm.
the baby was, for the most part, kind of making a little bit of noise, but looking back now, what are you thinking?
Oh my goodness. I think that we made the best decision in going forth and making this happen. I look back to where, we started. We were just kind of like, okay, let's feel each other out. How do we communicate? What's our communication style? Like, where we at on this platform? And then I think once we had topic number one, it was just straight rocket from there. It was like, yeah, this thing right here is going to work. So I'm looking forward to more. And I even invite people, with our social media, put a topic up there. We'll explore it, we'll check it out. And Mark, I want to go back and just hit this part too, though, partner. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes I bring some topics because I'm like, Mark, we can do this and listen to this. And Mark, you said, that's not this platform. Like,
Whoa! Look out
yeah,
now!
yeah,
Look out!
yeah, yeah,
Look
yeah.
out!
We're above that. We're not. That's not where we are. And I was like, ooh, look at here, look at here. So yeah, we doing some things. It's just not running after what is it like the running after accidents to find something to talk about. No, we've got real conversations with these topics.
Yes, we do. Yeah, yes, we really do. Some of the topics we cover already, man. I stand back and I go. I think to me one of the strongest ones I think we covered so far was the domestic violence in the church.
I can tell you that was one that changed my perspective. It changed with my view because I came in like, oh, the church should help and it's the church should do. And after we had the conversation, and that's what this about, the no topics. When you have conversation, it should broaden your horizon. It should give you something else to kind of bounce off of or look at your perspective in a bigger picture. And I came in like, yeah, the church should do this and should do that. And I left that conversation going, it's not the church's responsibility at all. So I want to thank you for that conversation. But I think the one that hit me, the one that hit me was emotional nudity.
Okay. Look
That
out.
one right there spoke so much. And on that, you ended that with this powerful message that I took and I pondered for a couple days. And
Ooh.
when we talked about that emotional nudity, you spoke at the end about how do you know your experiencing love or you're loved. And you ended that because I'm taking it, I've been going with the daily. It's like when you show up in an environment that you are authentically yourself and your body responds to that and let you know that you are in a safe space, in a safe place where you can be emotionally nude.
Yeah.
You being loved. That thing was like, ooh.
Yeah. It's real interesting because sometimes things just come, and I'm glad it had that impact for the most part.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. I sent you a video recently, and basically, I want to give her attention. The woman that basically spoke this video, her name is Carmel Dove,
Hmm.
and the video is basically stop talking so much, and we took it and basically it moved it to shut up and listen.
Yes.
And she really went in on, for the most part, how when men are basically speaking, how women are basically fighting to have conversation, they're basically being disrespectful. And that's kind of where we're going to go behind, the topics here. And this when I thought about this and we decided to go with this came to me remarkable. And it just came to me, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh.
Hmm.
In reality, we're supposed to be a complement to each other. We are. And,
Absolutely.
and we're created in, the image of God. So that complement should be a companionship and a partnership. But to me, if you're basically not really listening, if you're really not valuing what that person is saying, how close are you to the complement to each other? How much are you valuing the companionship and the partnership?
Well, I want to go here now. I just want to say that of course listening is definitely not gender specific. We all should learn how to listen. But I also say, especially since we're speaking scriptural, there is a scripture that says faithful are the wounds of a friend. And what happens is when we get into these relationships, we need to know or understand what a friend is. And a friend is going to speak to you because that woman on that video spoke to this fact that everybody's not speaking to you to tear you down, to be negative or anything like that. Sometimes if we can just be quiet, we can hear that the other person is really pouring something into us that's going to make for a better us.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And you're right. It's not gender specific. In a sense, I just kind of spoke to the woman part because that's what you're speaking to, Carmel Dove, for the most part. But listening really involves giving one's attention to.
Mm.
How
Hmm.
simple is that, though? When you think about it, just give one your attention. That's it.
Well,
Yeah,
Mark, sometimes we don't know how to pay attention to our own selves. So that's why we get into this narcissistic place of being that our thoughts, our speech is so grandiose is that why should we be in a position that we're listening to someone else? We know all to be all. So nobody else can impart anything into us because we know everything. But I always say that if you're not teachable, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dead.
yeah, that's true. But let me go back to the compliment to each other.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because realistically, when a man and woman are together,
Hmm.
she's basically from his rib for the most part, and a companionship and a partnership. So again, how you're not basically giving what's necessary to each other in forms of communication if you're in a relationship. How do you choose? And that word narcissism, I get it and everything else, but I don't understand when you decide to become with someone or to you value someone enough to where you're going to allow them to be in your space and be part of your life to where you don't drop all of that and basically understand you two should become a complement to each other. And
Hmm.
realistic, like you said, and she said too, that person not necessarily saying something to tear at you or come at you. And if you value that person enough and realize how they feel about you, how they
Hmm.
concern, you should know they should not say things just to basically rip you up and tear you down.
But she said something like you were saying, she was saying something impactful too, that a lot of times people listen through their experience. We listen through our experiences. And I even say that when we communicate through text. When someone texts us something, we read it by our own experience. So I can text you and say, no, I'm not showing up. And it isn't negative, but because your experiences may be negative or you're a negative person, you hear my voice going, no, I'm not showing up. So it's like a lot of times we're not listening to hear what that person is saying and taking it to the point that it's that person presenting whatever they're communicating. It's we're already feeling that I know what they mean, I know what they say, and you're processing it by only your limited ability or knowledge or your feelings or your experiences, or you're listening to them to already respond or refute whatever it is that they're saying. And I'm going to say this reason. I'm going to say this, and it could be gender with this one or whatever. It's because it's deflecting. And a lot of times we don't want to see what's going on with ourselves. So we're not listening to somebody else give us something to compliment us as we compliment the other person. We listen and we hear that as judgment, and we already don't want to change ourselves. So we
Hello.
don't want to hear what they want to say.
Hello. Hello. I agree with all of that, remarkable. But to me, you brought it home when you said we don't want to change ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You brought it home. You really did. And that's really what it comes down to. So you rather basically deflect kind of turn it into a battle of an argument
Mm-hmm.
instead of a conversation, because in your heart of hearts, you know you're not willing to do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's why you're triggered. Now, here's one of the amazing things that I find, and I'm gonna say this is gender,
Okay.
because this is what I've seen, what I almost try to experience, and I don't allow this to happen to me
Mm-hmm.
when I'm in a conversation with someone, primarily a woman. Men don't tend to try to overtalk me,
Oh.
but a lot of times women will basically try to overtalk you, and it's basically they don't even realize when they're doing it, they're trying to run away from what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And they think by over talking me, that's going to take me off. No, I know what I'm saying. I'm smart enough to understand what I'm saying. And probably the reason, I'm going to take the word probably out. You're choosing to over talk me because it's hitting home. It's
What they
hitting
say,
home.
a hit dog or holler. Not that
Yes.
I'm calling any of my females or my sisters a dog. I'm not saying that.
And it's like realistically, but what I've noticed with a lot of men, they, when over talking comes, they would just kind of sink down and don't say anything. I'll be damned. That's just not who I am.
Mm.
Because, and that's what they really want, to shut you up, put a muzzle on you, and they'll overtalk, and that's not communication. And I'll go back again.
Mm-hmm.
You're with this person. You should be a compliment to each other. You should be companionship, partnership. You don't run a partnership that way. You don't run
Mm-hmm.
companionship that way. So don't spend time telling me you love me, but yet you're trying to overtalk me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I used to find a big problem with people over talking me, and I'm gonna tell you why. I used to think when people over talked me that they had some sort of ability to take away my intelligence because I had something impactful to say. So I'm like, no, you're gonna hear what I have to say. You're gonna hear it. But I'm real big on this now as I learned and begin to grow, and it's continuously growing, that I don't need to give a person a PIEC of my mind because it takes away
Oh,
my PEACE.
oh.
So I need all my pieces, and I'm not sharing them if I don't need to share them. That's number one. Number two, I realize when people try to overtalk me, that, like you said, they're overcompensating for the fact that you've hit something and touched a nerve. And secondly, sometimes I'll let them just keep on talking for a while because eventually, and I've had this happen far too many times, that they overtalk them and they talk it to the point where they have to actually shut up because they realize in listening to themselves, they're not making no sense.
You said something I haven't heard in a while,
Hmm.
but I think it's the biggest culprit to over talking. And realistically, um, I know when I was younger, the phrase "I gave a piece of my mind."
Hmm.
Now, I really never heard men say that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I never did, but I heard a lot of women say that. I gave him a piece of my mind.
Hmm.
And what does that mean? I mean, realistically, did you slice a piece of your mind out? No. So
But wait, Mark. What
mhm,
happens when that man tells her, "You done lost your mind"?
yeah,
Well, she done
but
gave you pieces of it.
no, but in reality, they think if they cuss you out, even if
Mm.
they're not using the cussing words, that's the answer to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, any conversation I gave, and they couldn't even tell you what they were talking about,
Mm-mm.
what the conversation was. So they basically, a lot of women have seen other women do this. If you look around now on television, all the garbage that's on now with black reality television, they're still doing the same thing right here,
Yeah.
giving a piece of their mind. And half the time, when a piece of your mind is given, it's over something that's not that important.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that
Mm-hmm.
important. And they're spending more time getting revved up and doing all this because they believe that's a sign and a strength of a woman. It's not. That's
Mm.
no strength. Doesn't make you a boss. It makes you an absolute idiot, in my opinion. It
Mm.
is a piece of my mind. I
It
did
makes
this,
you look
whatever.
like a cackling hen, honestly. And that is so irritating to hear a woman. And listen, I'm a woman, so let me just, of course, 100%. But I really don't desire to give that energy to sound like a cackling uh farm animal. just because who's going to listen to that anyway? Let's even just think about the intonation, right? Let's think about just the banter of da 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 da. Who wants to hear that?
Yeah. It's just, and here's the other, and I know this doesn't really matter to them that does, the over talking, but what they may not be aware of, that when you try to do that, and if you're successful at doing it, you're basically showing that person a lack of respect and
Yes.
concern.
Yes.
And they may not speak of it. They may not speak of
Absolutely.
it, but it's going to start to affect some part of that relationship
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in some form or fashion. It's just going to have a place where it's going to have an impact. And
Absolutely.
I'm not sure that they care about it because again, for the most part, they just want to basically shut you up.
And so, in shutting you up, what you're doing is building walls. So you're shutting them up, but you're also shutting them out now. Because just like you said, you now see this person does not respect me enough to one, listen to what I'm saying, but they also are disrespecting me as well because you're belittling my presence by not acknowledging that I am important because what is important at this time is you getting out what you need to get out.
Yeah. And a lot of times the conversation again doesn't have to go there.
Mhm.
But that's where listening plays a part. And if you're basically trying to overtalk, how are you listening?
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't think it's possible. You really aren't. You're not interested in listening. You don't care enough to listen. You don't respect enough to listen.
So it
And that,
goes back to here. How do you
mhm.
grow with that person? And then you wonder why, honestly, these relationships don't go. They don't go anywhere because they don't grow anywhere. What?
It's, sometimes you have to do what you got to do. And you're right. That's not the formula to grow. It's not. It's
Mm-mm.
not. I haven't known you for a long period of time.
Mm-mm.
Remarkable. But you should be able to say anything to me, whether it's going to hurt my feelings or not, if it's
Mhm.
for the good for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should be able to. And I should be able to accept it. And I should be able to understand what you're saying to me is to better me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Mm-hmm.
to harm me. It's not to hurt my feelings. And you spoke earlier of they could be carrying something from the past. And I'm going to say this again. It's time to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's time.
Absolutely.
If you're in a relationship and this is what you're doing, guess what? It's time to deal with that. And that should have been dealt with already. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to give that as a viable excuse. I'm just not. Because again, if you're showing up and you're in it and you're an adult and you're mature, it should have been dealt with already. So I'm tired of having that be an excuse. I know who you are, what you
Mm-hmm.
are, as it's not possible. But
Mm-hmm.
I sit here as a male, as a man, I don't give that validity. I just don't. Because I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to. I could choose not to. Because I'm not bringing that to you. So if I'm not bringing that to you, I'm not going to allow you to bring that to me.
Right. And Mark, it's funny because sometimes when people say something and they go, oh, yeah, I hear you. And I'm like, but are you listening? There's a difference between hearing and listening, right? Hearing
Mm-hmm.
is passive. Hearing is the automatic physical act that we already know. Sounds can take place and we hear it, but it has no effect on us. But see, listening is active, it's intentional, it's a conscious act. It actually requires like focus, attention, and being present. And that's why a lot of times people will hear you, but they're not listening to you. So they can actually repeat back the sounds you spoke out of your mouth, but they're not listening for them to have the impact of the words that you were actually saying.
I believe too, a lot of times communication gets lost in translation. And you spoke to that a little bit earlier. But a
Hmm.
lot of times people take what you say and they translate it into what they believe or
Or
what
what
they
they've experienced. Yep, yep,
yes, and what they
yep.
want. And this is, I hear this quite a bit. I've always heard this quite a bit. I could say to you, you know, at 9 o'clock tonight, we're going to do XYZ. That's a
Mm-hmm.
clear sentence, clear. But it gets brought back to me. I thought you said no. Don't tell me what you thought I said. I
Mm-hmm.
prefer you ask me to be clear
Mm-hmm.
because your thought is a loss in translation.
Yes.
And you're acting on your thought. You're not acting on no. That to me, uh-uh.
But
I don't want it.
sometimes, Mark, that's a deflector. Sometimes people will do that
Absolutely.
because they
Yes.
don't really want to deal with whatever it is. So if they overtalk you or they don't listen or they restate or question or run it by what they feel or said, it's intentional. They're doing it intentionally because it's a deflector, not to really deal with what needs to be dealt with.
No, you're right. You're right. Here's the thing that bothers me about that. It's an insult to my intelligence
Oh my gosh, yes.
because you don't think I'm smart enough to realize what you're doing.
Yes. 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 Look, that should have been my clapping moment because that's one of my pet peeves. It really is. That's the thing that gets me is like you said, you're playing with my intelligence. And I don't like people playing games with me that I don't actively participate in.
Yeah. Let's talk about the comeback some
Mhm.
because a lot of times the comeback is what they focus more on than what's being said. The,
Explain. Tell me what you mean.
meaning that when you're speaking and you're saying something, they're not
Mm.
really paying attention to what you're saying. They're formulating their comeback
Oh, yeah.
to basically come back and denounce what you said without paying attention to what you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whew. And listen, I'm going to say this. I'm going to give it a name while we talking, because I know I'm gonna try to stay away from words like healing and hurting and trauma. But that's the
Ah,
wound. That's
really?
look. Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
All right now, all right now, all right, all
I'm a
right, all right, all
therapist,
right,
so
all
I'm gonna
right,
try.
all right,
But
right, right.
that's a wounded soldier to me. Really, that's a wounded soldier. That's that person that really is constantly processing through wounds and not through looking at the ability to move out of familiar territory. That's that wounded soldier.
I agree with you. I do agree, and that's yeah, I agree big time with that. It really is. But the problem is, most of the times, remarkable, they don't realize they're wounded.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Or make the conscious decision if they do know. And I just had this conversation earlier. It's like a person who is used to drama, right? Who's used to something always happening or something negative. Or I think we spoke to this, I think it was you, how some people create stories so that they can have drama or issues, right? So that's that person who kind of likes living in familiarity and just talking about wanting to get out of it. That's to me, the person who's dreaming about being and doing, but really living a nightmare because you're not doing anything to make it come into fruition.
Yeah. No, you're right. Sometimes, people sense drama as being exciting.
Yes.
And if it's not there, they will create it, which
Yep.
to me is amazing, but they want that excitement. They live off it, they feed off of it. It's amazing. But throw another word out to me because to me, when someone listens, and it may
Hmm.
not be pleasant that what they hear,
Hmm.
but to me, that's a big dose of humility.
Yes. And we lack that. Mark, we lack that so much in life today. People do not, that humble is a profanity. It's a curse word to people. And I'm like, no, that's exactly why this, like she said, you're stuck where you are. You have nothing. You know what I'm saying? You get nothing. It may not be nothing because you just won't humble yourself to hear and receive what somebody is saying. That's just why a lot of people are stuck on stupid.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because in a way, I will say you're blocking your own blessings.
Truly.
You really, yeah, you
Very
really
much
are.
so.
Because yeah, and it's funny because people look at being humble not as the same, but they kind of look at it in a way where it's kind of similar to forgiveness.
Mhm, mhm.
If I humble myself to you, I'm weak. They look at it as a measure of being weak to humble yourself, and
Right.
it's not. It takes strength to humble yourself.
It really does. Oh my gosh, it does. It does. And it takes processing. Um like feelings. It does. It's like, you know what? Just like you said, if someone says something to you, and I think you said this, if I'm incorrect, let me know. But when someone says something that you don't like, not liking it is a feeling, and feelings change. So after you not like it, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. I, you know what? This came to mind to constructive criticism
Mm-hmm.
because everyone can't take it. They
Mm-hmm.
really can't. I was in radio years ago, and to me, if you're going to be in radio or something, or you're an artist of any side or any
Mm-hmm.
way, you have to handle constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked with people that couldn't do it, and
Oh
I
God.
watched them, and I kind of look, and I realized they couldn't. And I remember this one station I worked at, and I started at this station part time. So the full timers were more experienced. They were, had their act together. And my thing was when they couldn't come in, that's when I would fill in.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember the program director said, okay, I want to have the sound. I want things done this certain way. And what we would do is we would do demo tapes each week. You recorded, your show, parts of your
Mm-hmm.
show, and then you meet with him. And for the most part, he constructively criticized what you're doing to get the sound that he wants the station to sound like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, out of 6 of us, the other 4 were basically full time. Those 4 or 5, every time he met with him, it was just almost like an argument. They're not trying to hear what he's saying. So
Mm.
I said, my first thought to myself was, this is great because he's sharpening my skills.
Yes. Yes.
He's sharpening
Yes.
my skills. That's what he's doing. I'm learning, I'm gaining, I'm going to get better. So it got to the point where after a few sessions, he said to me, I don't have to listen to your tape anymore.
Wow.
I paid attention. What he said to me, I didn't take it as a slight. I didn't take no. Now I believe his intent was for me to be better, but even if it wasn't, I was using that for you to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after he said that to me a week later, we always got together as a group and had our meeting. And he said, this is how I want the station to sound. He put my tape in and played it.
Wow.
Yes. But
Wow.
the only difference is I took the information and I made it useful for myself. They chose to be combative, not hear it, be
And not
stuck
learn.
and not learn, and therefore not grow. And that's the thing. If you're in a relationship with someone and someone is saying something to you, they're giving the relation the chance to blossom and grow. And if you're sitting there and standing there and you're being, not bringing humility, not being humble, you're working against the progress of the relationship.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this, Mark, because you said something. You talked about this criticism. Do you what is your opinion, or what do you think about if how that constructive criticism is verbalized? I hear a lot of people go, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. That's why I couldn't receive it. And I'm thinking, but they were the same words. And don't get me wrong, I don't feel like you should be specifically or purposefully derogatory to someone. I don't think that we should deliver things that, are intentionally hurtful or the manner. But, I also don't think that we have to like flower or sugarcoat words or whatever for somebody to receive them. So how do you feel about that? Because I know females, we do that all the time. We do. We were like, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And it's like, well, did you hear what I said though? Because it was for you to become better. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not, as long as it's not derogatory, it doesn't matter. Focus on what being said. But
Mm-hmm.
to me, when I hear that, it says to me, you have no interest no matter how it's presented to you.
That's true.
So you're trying to find a reason just not to accept it. That's all you're doing. You're trying to
Mm-hmm.
find a reason because, yes, constructive criticism is not always going to come with a smile. It's not. It
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
I believe we all should speak in a tactful way when we say things to people. But
Absolutely.
if you have something to say to me and it's not tactful, I'd rather you say it and I get it than you not say it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, it is what it is. So it's hard to believe. I mean, and maybe because I'm a man, but in my life, I didn't walk around looking for everything to be said to me with flowers and roses and
Mm-hmm.
dandelion.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't. I mean, for the most part, my mother, my father didn't always basically, give me constructive criticism with a smile. It started back.
Absolutely.
It started back then. So if you had that as a child, how the hell you get become an adult? And you look for everybody basically to pat you on the back, and no.
Mm,
But here again, if you're trying to basically pull good benefits out of it, you're not that concerned with how they said it to you. You're just not.
absolutely.
No. And that's the thing. You're fighting against the progress. You're using it as an excuse
Mm.
to basically fight against because you don't want it. You don't want it. And I
You
prefer you
just
say you don't want it. Simply.
You just said something powerful again, right there too. You said you're fighting against. We've got to get to a point where we realize, guess what? If they're not listening, and again, another
Oh,
scripture, when you go into your
ooh.
own and they receive you not, shake the dust off your feet. Let me tell you something. I look like I must have a pedicure every day because I'm a dust shaking feeder off for somebody.
Remarkable.
Like,
I hear you. Because I'm gonna tell you this. I do not believe keep knocking on the door that's not opening.
mm-mm,
I'm
mm-mm,
sorry. I just, it's my nature. Now I'm willing to help or say some things, but if I realize that I'm knocking and you don't want to open the door, it ain't gonna take me long to figure that out. And once
mm-hmm,
that's figured out, there's no more knocking. There's no
mm,
more knocks to come. And you're right. And what happens with a lot of people, they get frustrated and they keep knocking. Why
yes,
you don't open the door? Why you
yes.
There's no need to frustrate yourself.
Well, Mark, I
Because
have to say that is a female thing. What we say, you not, I'm just trying to say, you not listening to me, and I'm just trying to, and it's just like, first of all, I can't hear the cackling. That high pitched tone is just taking me to another level. Can't do that, right? And then secondly, because you're force feeding me whatever you're saying, and you want me to hear you, but you're not. And again, kind of, you're going off, and you're not listening to me. You want me to hear you, and that's not respect. That's not, like you said, being in a relationship with someone who's respecting each other. That's what listening is about. Listening is actually a form of respect.
it's no topic left behind on the DoD network and When Black Men Talk. It's remarkable. Renee Ambush and Mark Elliott. And basically, we're talking about shut up and listen. And it's in
Yes.
reality, you think about it, why should you have to tell somebody to shut up and listen?
Mm,
Because if you're listening, you're shut up already.
yeah.
But I guess some have to hear shut up and listen just to get there. I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier when we first started, because bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. And we don't, how many times we think about that when we're in a relationship?
Mm.
How do how do we
I
humble
don't think
ourselves and think
often.
about that? No, we don't.
Mm-mm.
And realize basically we're here to serve each other. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be
that's
one.
important.
Yes, one should not be higher than another. We're here to serve each other and be a complement to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're doing that, look what we can possibly gain and have.
Yes. Look at what we can accomplish, and you're absolutely right. And I think that's a part of good listening, right? Is when we take into consideration the other person. It's like, if I'm looking at and understanding you in a relationship, because of course I come in understanding myself, as I'm in and I'm processing and I'm learning and understanding you, then I should better be aware or in a better space of how to communicate with you where you will listen. So then you don't have to force feed anything or feel like you're not being heard. And I think we spoke about this before. When the environment is conducive, people want to talk because they know that you're going to hear them and you're not just listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I want to say something, man. I want your quick reaction to it.
Hmm.
Meaning that don't run into that, that brain of yours, that brain that's
Okay.
always working and working overtime. But just
Okay.
give me a quick reaction to this. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding.
Absolutely. You can learn a lot from a dummy. And so that's exactly what I get. First thought, the person who doesn't want to listen truly is a fool.
Wow.
And a fool usually only has himself for a friend.
Isn't that something? That's a word, we don't want to throw out, it's at times it needs to be used. It's not a word that I like to basically throw
Yeah, I
out
don't.
there. I
Yeah,
try not to. It's
yeah,
almost like the word ugly. You never really want to use it. I'm not, it
yeah,
just, you just kind of take it out of your vocabulary. But
yeah,
realistically, it fits here. It
yeah,
fits
yeah,
because if you're trying not to listen and you don't take pleasure in understanding, hey, what else is there to be said? What
yeah.
else can be said? I mean, what other word, what other title, what other adjective really fits?
Well,
It
you know
makes,
that fool usually turns into, or not even turns into, but that fool usually is operating out of pride. And we know what happens, with pride. That's why they
hmm
always, and what she said is you wonder why you're still stuck in the same place and you're not getting anywhere. Like you said, it's because of your pride. Your pride will not allow you to learn and grow.
yeah. You know, here's something, and I know you said earlier about this word, you're pulling back on it, but
Hmm.
here's where it applies in a sense, because, and I believe she said this as well, there could be some healing from listening.
Absolutely. Not
Yeah,
can be. It's amazing. Even in your listening, and like I said, listening and hearing, even in your hearing information that may not apply to you for the right now. Sometimes we need to store what we hear. And then once that situation comes up, we have the very tools and what we need to combat whatever that thing is because we were hearing at the time it was being presented to us. And Mark, I think sometimes people will reject hearing something because they're like, well, that's not where I'm at right now, or that's not what I'm going through right now, and I don't need to hear that right now. And only to then find themselves in the situation and go, wait a minute, I think somebody has said something. I think my man has said, or I think my lady had told me. But you didn't want to hear at that time because you didn't want to receive because you felt like at that present moment you didn't need it.
yeah. I want to ask a question because
Hmm.
this kind of revolves around healing. Um, what I've noticed, I've experienced this when I was married. And sometimes when you're in a certain place, you think it's just you. You just think
Hmm.
whatever you're up against, it's just you. You're the only one. You kind of think that, and that's never the case.
Hmm.
But what I've realized then is that I can say something, and no matter how legit it is, she could not accept it.
Mm.
Now, the interesting thing is, someone can walk by the front of the house and say the exact same thing, and she will accept it. Now, here's, what happened was, her and I became separated,
Hmm.
and she invited me to come to a couple's church service that her church was having. So I'm sitting there, and the minister was speaking for the most part. And shortly after he spoke for a little bit, he brought his wife up. And he said, I'm going to tell you something my wife does that irritates me real bad. He said, we could be in a conversation, and I could say to her, da 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 da. She'll fight not to take it from me or hear from me. But yet, someone else can say the exact same thing. She gets it immediately and then come back and say they said it and will not acknowledge the fact that I said it.
Hmm.
What type of communication? There's something going on there, Renee.
Well, let me, I always wear my therapist hat for the
And
most
that's why
part.
I'm asking you, put that hat on. Let's put that hat on. Make sure it's on straight, too.
And so one of the reasons could be is that person is afraid, and we talked about the emotional nudity. That person is afraid to be seen in a certain light from a person that they only want to be seen well with. Like, so for instance, that the wife only wants her husband to see her as the best thing since sliced bread and without fault and just perfect and things of that nature. So if they have to receive that information if she has to receive that information from him, then now at some point he may not see me as perfect. But that other person that I take the information from I could kind of care less how they see me. I don't even have to interact with that person again for the most part. But this person that holds weight with me emotionally, I don't want them to see me in a certain light. So I put up barriers, or I won't receive what they're saying, even though, and again, like I said, it's a difference between listening and hearing. I'll listen to what they said. I won't hear what they said because ultimately it's going to make me feel a certain way about myself, which then I'll project and think that they also see me in that same way.
I think too. Let me make this point too, because I've noticed a lot of times where a woman with a man
Hmm.
will basically try to always, not always, sometimes mentally go toe to toe,
Hmm.
and to try to prove to him she's just as smart, just as intelligent as he is. And I'm not saying she's not smart or intelligent, but she goes out of her way in conversations to try to show that. And ironically, I remember when I was separated, she said to me, I always felt like I had to prove to you that I was smart.
Mm.
Now I said this to her. If I didn't think you were smart, why would I have made you my wife?
Yeah. See, and again, it kind of goes back to really what I just said is I want someone to see me in such a way. And most of the times they don't see themselves that way, but they're projecting something or they want someone else to see them in a way that they don't even see themselves.
Yeah, that's it. That's it right there. Because it's, and that's, to me, when it was said, I mean, I gave my reaction, but it's like, so you spent all this energy and time doing that. And to me, this is where communication is key.
Hmm.
If that was spoken clearly, instead of trying to have the battles and trying to prove, why not just say that then?
Mark, let me tell you. And again, me and my little special case and always having a story. I look to learn. Right now, again, I'm not combative. I'm not, for lack of better terminology, I don't, have blonde roots, but I'm just intellectually mature and aware enough to say, hey, I don't understand. I mean, with my former partner, we talk, and they'll say something, and I'll get quiet for a second, and I'm like, wait, I had to look that word up. You know what I mean? Like before I put myself in a situation where I don't want to learn, or I'm going to be combative because I didn't understand. Like you said, if I just communicated, or we talk about this all the time, if I just take accountability and go, what can I do first? Before I start asking something, what can I do for me first? And then I'll ask. Now, if I can't find it or I don't understand the interpretation of what I read when I look up something that I just learned or whatever, instead of trying to go toe to toe intellectually, I'm just like, hey, like you said earlier, this person has just taught me something. I've learned something different. And that's all about that growing.
Yeah. You notice something too. Well, I noticed something as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
They will spend more time trying to show you right or allow you to think that you're right. They'll spend more time trying to show you wrong.
That's too much energy, Mark.
There it is. There it is. And what happens, or what really is at stake here, is the things that they were attracted to you about. Now they're fighting them because they don't feel good.
Oh.
They don't feel good about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the sad part about it is you're absolutely right. And so it's like kind of we talked about this a little bit earlier at another show. It's when you go into that dating, what are you looking for? Because sometimes I'm going in for my own reasoning. So I don't hear you. Like I came in here because I want blah 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 die. So what you're bringing me, I'm not really willing to receive. I just want what I want. So you can, like you said, you can talk to your blue in the face to help me become a greater person, or for us to respect each other in communication and hearing and listening. And again, that's why I said a lot of those relationships. because you're not looking to grow.
Renee, repeat that. For some reason, you faded out for a little while. Go back and, if you don't
Oh,
mind,
I was
repeat what
saying,
you.
and that's why they don't grow because they're not looking for the person to grow. They didn't come in there with that thought process or um with that perceptive. I came in for my own. So whatever you tell me or show me, I'm really not listening to that anyway because that's not what I came for.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Keep that hat on that you have on because I want to, bring something else to it in reality because we talked about earlier peace of mind, but
Hmm.
this is something that's real common. Oh my goodness, man. She must have the last word.
Ah, mm. And I kind of first and foremost want to say this. That's because that person has not first and foremost respected themselves, so they're not going to respect you. So your time, your space, and your energy, that's why they have to have the last word because it makes them feel some sort of superiority within themselves that they already know that they lack. And that in itself, like I said, shows their full disrespect in accepting you or understanding you or even I'm going to go as far as say as loving you, but it's because they don't love themselves. So if I have the last word, I walk out of here and I won. But any good relationship is not about a win. It's not about a win lose. It's about a win win.
I'm gonna let that sit there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just let that kind of just sit there and float, 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 float. Because that right there is it in a nutshell. It really is. And the sad thing about that is everything you just say, they don't even realize.
Yeah.
They don't realize. They have no clue to it. And if you try to explain that to them, oh, they'll lose their mind.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, they'll lose their
And
mind.
and then it goes back to that. And honestly, I look at every little thing. I scrutinize sometimes our verbiage and our behaviors. Sometimes I just can't help it. I'm not even gonna lie. But that's what tripped me out when I said how we as women go, I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind. You gonna hear it today. But then that same person or that same woman gets upset when a guy says, you have lost your mind or you out of your mind. Like you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth about this scenario. You've got the female saying, I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind, and then you've got this man said you have lost your mind or you're out of your mind. That is literal.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I know I said earlier about peace of my mind. You don't hear it that much as comments, the whole thing. And I just realized why. Because it switched over from peace of my mind to I went off. I'm going to go off.
Ugh.
And they feel like that's something of a, here again, something
Oh,
of a strength, something of that should be admired, something that's really, you should shoot for. There's something about that is so great.
but that to me, like I said, herein lies, here I go again, being a wordologist, right? So I'm gonna go off. Well, anything off is not stable. Who wants to be in a relationship with somebody who's not stable?
Look out. Look out. I want to know this. You may not need your hat for this one, but
Okay.
to me, when that's present and it's right there, why aren't they open to correction?
Ooh. Now the first thing that came to mind is um, a lot of times we think that correction is a bad thing. We equate that with meaning again, and I think I spoke this somewhere, that we equate sometimes behaviors with characters and personalities and then title them. So if somebody is correcting me, what some people think is, then I'm wrong. That's because I'm wrong. Correction doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. It's just say, how can you be better? Right? So if you and again, I have a lot of like, my little analogies or examples. Sometimes if you write your name, and let's just say you write it in pencil, and you like, oh, you know what? I can make that R better if I'm writing Renee. It didn't mean that the R was wrong or what I wrote was wrong. I just used the eraser so I can make it better. But a lot of times people don't want to be corrected because they feel like if I'm corrected, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I never even like to tell kids that they're right or wrong or that they're bad or good. Those titles are so concrete that it's so hard to come up out of them. And it then brings psychological bondage and you operate under characteristics that go with that title. That's why people don't like to be corrected. That's why people don't want to hear, because when they hear I'm right or I'm wrong. I'm sorry, not that I'm right. I hear that I'm wrong. I hear that I'm bad. I'm hear that it's something wrong with me. So I'd rather not be corrected. So I'll overtalk you, or I'll try to shut you down, or like we were saying, or I'll go off, or I'll give you a piece of my mind. Because if I happen to stop and hear what you're saying to me, going back to this, Mark, I might have to change.
Why is change such a bad thing, though? I don't understand. Why is change? Because a lot of people fight not to.
Because it's unfamiliar. And we get so stuck with the familiar. Even if we don't like the familiar, we'll stay in the familiar because we know what it is. Change is unknown. And the thing about it is, A, it's unknown when you pay that lottery ticket if you're going to win or not even. It's unknown if you go to them horses and bet on that if that horse going to really win. So if you can take a chance on stuff like that, take a chance on you.
Yeah, you're right. You're really right. Yeah. And I know I've probably said it on other uh, episodes that we did, and the word accountability, and I'm not going to go too far with this, but I just don't understand. Well, not because I don't understand. As an adult, if you were this way 20 years ago and it wasn't to your benefit,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't bother you.
Say that one more time. You kind of broke out a little bit.
If you were this way without
Mm-hmm.
change for the last 20 years and it hasn't benefited you, it hasn't worked in your favor, that doesn't bother you.
Well, I say this, and when this statement hit me, because I was like, I really thought everybody had common sense until I really somebody told me no, common sense is really not that common.
No, it's not. It's not. But even without common sense, and I get that, and common sense is not that common, and I'm going to believe common sense is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe it's a gift. But even without common sense, if I was to bang my finger into a nail for 10 years, I must start to like the pain.
I would say that too. That I literally, and people don't like to hear that, Mark. We're talking about hearing and listening. People don't like to hear that. And I don't know if it's the way I'm delivering or not, but I say that all the time. When I say, oh, you must like pain, or you must like that. No, I don't. I don't like this situation, but you continuously repeat it. So
Yeah.
you have to like it.
Yeah. I mean, what other logical conclusion can you really pull from that? Because if you choose not to change, then you must like where you are. You accept where you are. And here's a word that is not thrown out enough,
Hmm.
but you're lazy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's,
Because
I'm sorry.
healing, and that's okay, because healing and hearing takes work.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
Yeah.
lazy. And that's a word we are carefully not to use, and we should be using it more often when we see it.
Or we only use it from a physical sense, and lazy is also a psychological, mental, and emotional thing as well.
Absolutely. It is. It really is. And, and I've noticed that more over the years than anything else. Laziness. Lazy. Physical and mental.
Hmm.
Lazy. You decide you're not going to do it because of the work that's involved, what you're going to face. You make a conscious decision. I'm not going to do that.
And you know what? And you said something. We make that person or whoever makes a conscious decision to do that. And so when we talk about, because I know we talk about this a lot, when you like, somebody should mature and grow up. Absolutely. If you make a conscious decision to do that, right? That shows your immaturity and or your lack of ability to grow or want to grow when you consciously choose to do something that doesn't help you become better.
Look out now. Look out. No topic left behind. That's remarkable. Renee Ambush and Mark Elliott. You can find this episode, and you should be finding on DoD Network and the platform of When Black Men Talk. Once again, we get together and basically take things and look at it from a different perspective. Sometimes, our perspective may not be a common perspective, but that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, our perspective is our perspective. And I love that we do what we do.
And you know what, Mark? We do it well.
Yeah, I say so too. I say so too. I believe we really do. And I'm happy to be doing it, Remarkable. I'm happy to be doing it. I'm happy to be part of it.
Absolutely. So I love how you take us out of here because you really make people want to come back. So you gotta take us out of here, Mark.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's we just getting started. Let's face it, we just
Yes.
getting started, and there's gonna be some things that we really kind of roll into. So continue to be what you're doing. Continue to pay attention, and like you said on a prior episode, if you have some topics that you want us to really engage in, don't be afraid to
Mhm.
speak and say it to us, because we're not afraid. We're not afraid. We don't
Absolutely.
approach anything with fear. We walk in faith, and that's all we know. So may God continue to bless you. I know He will. We love you too. Take care of yourself. We get together soon.
All right.